At 280 pounds, the single hardest thing that I was dealing with wasn't the identity, it wasn't the pain on my joints, it was sleep apnea. It was overshadowing everything in my life. And apparently, I had been living with it for years without knowing or having an official diagnosis. Once I started to lose weight and really gain a handle on my health, my sleep apnea went away, and that was the single biggest improvement in my life, in my identity, in how I saw the world, and just my joy, and it just allowed me to regain my life back. So, if you're new here, my name is Pete. I've lost over 120 pounds, going from 280 originally down to now below 160. And this video is about my struggle with sleep apnea and how losing weight, getting healthy, was able to have me regain my health and my happiness by getting rid of my sleep apnea. So, to begin with, my understanding of sleep apnea actually started when I was a very young kid. My dad had horrible snoring. He was notorious for it. And I think that is just a thing, right? Our dads, they snore. My dad's was really bad, and it would wake up the whole house. Often he would have to sleep in a separate room because his snoring was so bad. And as a kid, I snored too. And I was also known as someone that snored not quite as bad as my dad. But I'll always remember this one story of I was in like a summer camp situation. All the kids are around laughing and having fun, and it was time to go to sleep, and we all have these bunk beds. And something that I'll always remember as like a semi kind of traumatizing event was that I kept everyone awake with my snoring. And that I'll never forget that, because everyone was making fun of me, and it was something I had to live with. It was like, hey, remember that time Pete kept everyone awake at camp? And so I had always just thought I was someone that snored, and that was just part of my identity, and I had just lived that way throughout adolescence and into adulthood. And at a certain point in my kind of late 20s, early 30s, that's when my weight really started to become a problem. I started to gain more and more weight, and when COVID hit, I wasn't having any exercise, and I was just in my room eating and eating, and my weight just got out of control, and so did the sleep apnea. At a certain point, I couldn't even get to sleep, and this became such a huge problem. So basically what happened in my case was I was starting to develop this horrible problem with my sleep apnea. And I was at a friend's house, and I was trying to get to sleep, kind of in that in-between stage between being awake and being asleep. And later that day, my friend's mom said, "Hey, Pete, like, I'm scared for you. Like, I was listening to you last night, and you were gasping for air, and it sounded like you were choking." And she kind of recommended, like, you need to see a doctor. Like, I'm very concerned for you. I thought you were going to die. And I guess I was kind of in that haze and not really knowing if I was asleep or awake, and having these sleep apnea events. And based on her recommendation, I did go to the doctor. It was at the doctor that, they did inform me about my problems with my weight, and I came in for sleep apnea, and they wanted to do their introductory questions and their diagnostics. And the first thing is like, hey, you have a lot of issues that are associated with your weight loss, and that is actually what we're most concerned about as doctors. And this sleep apnea thing is sort of like, yes, it is a problem, but hey, we need to look into your weight and maybe need to start getting you on medication because you are in a really dangerous situation with your health. So that was the wake up call. And that's what actually started me on my weight loss journey was this, the concern from a friend's mom, which got me to the doctor's office, and then the doctors informing me about where I was in my poor health. It was after that appointment that I started to really take a step back and look into where my health was going and where my life was going. And that's when I started to make a change and get really serious and make my health my top priority. So in that appointment, I did mention my sleep apnea, and one of the things they were saying was like, hey, this is a problem. Your sleep apnea could actually make all of your other health concerns even worse. So what we're going to do is we're going to recommend that you get a CPAP machine. If you don't know what a CPAP machine is, it's the mask that goes over your entire face and it has a hose and it's connected to a machine. And the machine basically breathes for you while you're asleep. It is the most horrible thing ever to be someone who uses it, but it also is a distraction and kind of just an eyesore, and just it also affects the people around you. For me, living with a CPAP machine was a horrible experience. All in all, I lived with a CPAP machine for around 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and I would say those 2 to 3 years were the darkest times in my life. So first of all, the machine is very expensive in itself. So I needed to bite the bullet and actually just pay for this machine in order to make me breathe. So that was the first thing. Secondly, operating the machine is it's awful. The way that you have to put it over your face, it's uncomfortable. When you actually try to get to sleep, you're tossing and turning anyways. It's terrible. And in fact, when I first was prescribed this CPAP machine, they had me take a sleep study. And what was interesting is like, I couldn't actually even get a proper sleep study because I couldn't even breathe to get to sleep. So I was in desperate need of this CPAP machine. And once I got it, it did work. And I was able to actually sleep. And overall, that haze and that kind of lack of energy that was due to the fact that I wasn't getting proper sleep, that actually did improve a little bit at the beginning when I started using the CPAP machine, because when you're dealing with sleep apnea, one of the worst parts of it is that you never actually get a proper night's sleep. And that has so many effects that there was a time, in fact, when I was at work and I totally dozed off. And my boss was in the room and he said, "Hey, wake up." And that was not only embarrassing, but I think it definitely left a really bad impression. So that it affects your career as well. And so finally, I was now living with this CPAP machine, and it was helping me get to sleep and experience some of the benefits of actually being able to fall asleep. But that was just addressing the symptoms and not the root causes of what was really going on. And not only that, it was totally ruining my identity and just made me really hopeless and really hate life. Every time I wanted to go to sleep at night, I had this sense of anxiety, like, oh no, I have to put on the mask again. Oh no, am I gonna live like this for my whole life? Oh no, what if I wanna go on a vacation? Am I gonna be bringing this CPAP machine with me everywhere I go. Oh no, what if I want to have a girl over and go on dates? Is it going to be like, hey, welcome to my place? As you can see, I use a CPAP machine. It's not the most attractive thing in the world either. So it just was totally ruining my sense of hope for the future and prospects for getting in a proper relationship, going on a proper vacation, and just I had no hope. I felt really stuck due to this living with this CPAP machine, struggling with sleep apnea. So over that 2 years, I was just really suffering, and finally I had the wake-up call, and the doctors kind of kicked me into gear, and I started on my weight loss journey. It was very, very slow. Over the first year, I probably lost around 30 pounds. So that was great, but it was not, it was only a fraction of the weight I needed to lose. Within kind of the second year is when I started to really get in my stride, because I started to really understand myself. And that's when I started 1 meal a day, because I was on 2 meals a day for a while, and the progress was slower, and I started learning more about 1 meal a day, and I started trying it, and it started working. I was also exercising regularly because I was on 1 meal a day, and this is a huge part of it. Because I was on 1 meal a day, I didn't eat breakfast or lunch. So what was I going to do at lunchtime at work? I started exercising at lunch. So once that fell into place, eating 1 meal a day, and instead of having lunch, I would exercise, that's when the weight really started to come off. And that's actually also when I started tracking my weight. So that second year was when my weight loss really started to be very effective. And it wasn't soon after that that I was noticing that I could breathe better. Now, the whole time when I was using my CPAP, I would try to fall asleep without it every night. Like, hey, is this the night? Like, could I fall asleep tonight without it? Nope, nope. And that was my routine every night, to basically see if I could fall asleep. And once I started really losing weight, I would do the same thing. And one night, I tried that, and I actually fell asleep without the CPAP. And I woke up almost confused, like, wait, did I just fall asleep without the CPAP? That's when I knew I was on the right track. I was so happy and overjoyed at that moment. I thought my life was just going to be dominated by sleep apnea and having to use this CPAP machine for my whole life. That one night gave me a glimmer of hope. And over the next few weeks, there were nights when I couldn't really get to sleep, and nights where I actually was able to fall asleep and not use the CPAP machine. By this point, I had gone from 280 pounds at my heaviest down to around the 200 range. So I had lost around 80 pounds. So a long time had passed, and I had done a lot of work and lost a bunch of weight. And finally, I started to be able to breathe and go to sleep. And since then, I had gone on to lose another 40, and I can sleep soundly every night. And in fact, I kind of ask my loved ones, hey, do you hear me snoring? And they tell me, like, no, we don't hear you. So I think that even my snoring has been resolved as well. So this single aspect of the weight loss with sleep apnea being cured, I think in my case, is the single biggest improvement in my life, in my outlook on the future, in my identity that I could have ever asked for. And if I could choose one thing that is the best thing about losing weight, it's having my sleep apnea be resolved. So if you are struggling with sleep apnea, and you're struggling with obesity as well, that may be something that can help. Now, again, as I said at the start, I am not a doctor, and this is not medical advice. And I know that there's so many reasons why people have sleep apnea. A lot of it has to do with the shape of their throat and their airway. But if you are struggling with obesity, and as a result of your obesity, you are also struggling with sleep apnea, one of the things to motivate you and think more seriously about getting your health in control is that it could potentially also help you with your sleep apnea. I know firsthand how much of an impact dealing with sleep apnea can be. So if there's any words of encouragement, it's that no matter what, even if you don't have sleep apnea, addressing your health, getting healthy, getting into a healthy weight range, that can benefit you in so many different ways, including potentially improving your sleep apnea. So, thank you so much for watching. And if any of this helped you at all, I hope that you would consider subscribing or commenting, reaching out in any way, because I'm here to connect with others that are trying to lead a healthy lifestyle. I'd love to involve myself more in the community. And so, again, I thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope to see you on the next one, where we talk more about health and leading a healthier lifestyle. Thank you so much.